levels of internet penetration in regard to the ticketing system? Ought that not have been something you knew about a long time before you put it in place?
No, first, it's a system, we have to use such system when you are talking about, ticket sales around the world. There's not so many other systems you can use today to reach the world and to make sure that everyone around the world has a chance to buy a ticket. Then it's true that we have been working then with FNB. We knew about that there was an issue in South Africa, but we have been working with FNB and all FNB branches to make sure that there was a way for people just to go there and to buy the ticket. I think that more also than the internet, the issue in South Africa is that for a lot of people it was not in the culture to come, to pay, and to just get a voucher. And to be told, you will receive your tickets in 18 months when we will print the tickets, but before that you will have just a voucher or confirmation and nothing else. We have seen, when we opened the ticket centers, the number of people queuing, coming, because for the first time they had the chance to buy a ticket and to get a ticket. So that's, it's not just about internet. It's true that internet made us the obligation to open more centers through the FNB things, or branches, through a number of things, through ticket centers than expected. And it's true that even with FNB it was not enough, so that's why we have opened other centers which cost quite a lot of money to do so. So no, we are not stupid. When we are coming somewhere, we assess the country, but we had not maybe for the culture of getting a real ticket in hand, we're very clear there.
Tandiwe, I wonder if you could respond to Steve's other question. He wants to know how angry people are. I would assume you're not going to get angry on the stage, but can you give us an honest sense? People in the tourism sector who are unhappy must contact you, and you must be able to give us the temperature of the industry out there. Give us as honest as possible an assessment of how unhappy people are with the way the arrangement with Match worked out. Because I think that's really the question. Not how unhappy Danny is, but how unhappy are your stakeholders?
They are unhappy stakeholders because they felt that they could have started selling much earlier their product, but waited until the release of the rooms. So yes, they definitely are those feelings. But the attempt, since the release has been, and using also our own systems, our call centers and so forth, to ensure that we, between the time the rooms are released and now, that as many people as possible, and that the product owners are able to use whatever facilities they have to get their rooms sold in the time that is left. So to answer your question, frankly, the degree of anger, I think those people who've been affected by it have been upset by it. But they have also proceeded to sell in the manner in which they found fit. The second question about the internet, I suppose that the LOC did everything in its power to say, okay, initially use the internet for tickets, but later on the LOC has always been consistent, I believe, in saying that tickets will at some point be sold over the counter, and that has been happening, and you've seen the trend then, and that has dealt with that upset also in South African terms.
Anyway, pick up the question that the lady asked earlier on. She wasn't satisfied with how much is going back to the rest of Africa. How much is this an African world?
If I'm expected to answer that question in rands and cents, in dollars and euros, I'm not going to do that because I will not be honest. What I want to say though is the fact that we do know that there are huge numbers of Africans from all over the continent who are here. We do know that there are many of the visitors who will be visiting neighboring countries like Botswana, Angola, Mozambique, who actually see Kenya as real opportunity for them to travel within the continent. And so, as a tourist destination, or as tourist destinations, I see other African countries benefiting in that regard. And I also see, as a benefit, the potential for growth in business between South Africa and those other African visitors who will be coming to South Africa during that period.
But before we go back to then go on to the question of security, I must ask you this question because a Nigerian colleague actually brought this up. When you arrive at the airport, there is a very interesting distinction. It may be unintentional, but it's there. There are lines for South African passports, there are other passports, and there are African passports. What does that mean?
I think between the African Union discussions about where they are thinking about the future of dealing with visas within the continent, we basically starting to see the extent of which from a volume point of view with the request from Home Affairs and Immigration and Excise to start facilitating the African population differently. It's part of their long-term strategy, as you know, to do away with visa requirements.
But you do realize that for many Africans who are arriving at the airport, the first thing they see is South Africans, others, and Africans. Now that's a bit odd.
Just tell them we've learned from Europe. In Europe there's European Union and others.
Yes,
so here too, we want to follow the example.
But it's a good addition. If I may comment on the issue of how Africa benefits, because I think if we leave it, people are going to think that there's no real benefit.
Sure.
This is the first time Africa hosts a Soccer World Cup. And what you don't see when you talk to tourism or you talk to soccer is that in the background, for example in the airports, what we build, how we facilitate, the language translation issues within ACI Africa and our family of airports. We are all using this opportunity to learn better on how to facilitate, because Africa wants to sponsor more and more sports. The learnings are enormous. To quantify them, I wish the journalists could find us a formula, but they are there and there are many. And with the platform of visitors coming through, it is really our capacity to showcase the continent so that when they come here, they can go and visit the various parts of the continent. The benefits are there.